Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode. Actually, our first episode with our new title. After one episode, we already retired the other one. We outdid it. We had to start over. Welcome to the Modern Father with your host, Benji and Marcus.
Yeah, man. Let's get after it. I love that new
Let's get
name.
after it.
Like that new name is getting it. It's getting it. I
Yeah, the
love it.
new name. I think the new name is gonna set the tone for us. All right.
Hmm.
We talked about this, and I guess this is part of the growing pains of a new podcast or just trying something new. We've never done this before, and we felt like halftime nap time was limiting what we really wanted to do. Halftime nap time sounded like only for babies.
Right.
What we want to talk about just youth development through the perspective of a male in general. So
Hmm. Yeah, man. So we want to reach like all the fathers around there, not just the ones with just early babies. We want to reach those fathers who, grandparents also, all stretches, all
everybody,
ranges, everybody, anybody can
right?
get it around here in the Modern Fathers podcast.
Correct.
That's how we do it.
Correct. And like, just because right now we're a new father, so we got babe. Well, Marcus has a baby. I am expecting a baby in the next few weeks. To start my journey, but we work with children. We've worked with children from, I know I've done ECE through high school. I believe
Same
Marcus
thing.
is similar as well, right? ECE
Hmm.
through high school. So we do have a plethora of information, not necessarily from the parent perspective, but things that can be applied, things that parents should know in order to advocate and basically be the best version of themselves for their kid.
I would say definitely too, like if you think about it, working with a kid, no matter what age, like for 8 hours a day, you almost end up seeing that kid more often than the parents see that kid, depending on what circumstance it is, whether it be a school setting, preschool setting, um, any even sports setting, because sometimes like you see them a lot. So having that perspective has definitely helped me as a father. Helped me like grow and helped me to where like right at Cairo like locked in. And like using all those skills that I've obtained over the past 20 some years working with kids. So man, I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up for this podcast, man. I'm fired up to help other fellow parents and just make sure that like we bring them along and they help us out too. Come join the show. Come holler at us at the halftime nap time at gmail.com. Still kept that
Yeah,
email.
absolutely. I mean, I feel the same way, man. Like I kind of touched on this in the last episode where I was just always being there for other people's children and helping develop everyone else's kid, and now I get a chance to do it. Um, and having that background really, really helped just kind of get me prepared. I feel like I have an idea of at least where to start. I don't have all the answers by no means. Do I believe I know everything and I am going to be the perfect dad? That is not where I believe at all. But I do think I have a leg up.
Hmm.
I have seen develop from as early as 6 weeks all the way through high school. And then when you include my own nieces and nephews, I would say especially my oldest niece, who I was around a lot when she was born. We lived together. Actually, I lived with my sister for a bit when I was a kid, and she just had her own kid. So I got to experience all that, see all that, have that understanding of what it really takes to help grow a child into something. And I'm just looking forward to it to actually be able to do it my way, teach through
Hmm.
my values, come out of my home. It's a challenge, but something I'm really looking forward to right now. I got a question.
Go ahead.
Question number one: why did you want to make a podcast?
Well, as a stay-at-home dad, just chopping it up with you and chopping it up because I was doing it by myself at first. I had like a few episodes that are on YouTube right now that I didn't want to show people because they're kind of goofy. So I'm just talking to a camera and like talking into a camera without conversation. It's so hard. And like shout out to all my YouTubers out there, or like radio hosts, all those people who are just talking by themselves, like sportscasters, like late night, radio hosts who are just talking by themselves, man, that shit is hard. But the reason why I wanted to do this is because like I wanted to link up with other fathers And actually, like, I want to turn this into like a community, to where it's just like, hey, like we have meet and greets. You know, like, hey, come out to Vegas, come out to Denver. Like, you know, like we're gonna like, you know, rent out a ballroom. You know, we're all gonna get together like with our, you know, subscribers and our people who follow the show, and like network with one another, create different programs, whether they be like walking programs, basketball programs where we can hoop and have our kids all in strollers, like all like next to us and stuff, watching our games. Just little things like that. I just wanted to create more of like a community of fathers, and plus like the way like dads are kind of treated nowadays. Like dads are kind of like the afterthought of parents. I want to ask you a question on this right now too. When you call a parent at your school as an administrator, who's the first parent that you call on that list on the IC?
Mom,
Exactly.
every
So that every time, and I noticed that too because man, like when I was dealing with as the assistant principal out there in Denver, I was like the same way. I was like, why am I calling mom every single time? Like with all these kids, I'm always calling mom first. Like why is that? And so then I started calling dad, and dad's usually like grinding, he's hustling at work, but he's like, yeah, I'll do something about this. Like I'm glad you called me. And dads were more appreciative of that phone call. Mom's like, oh, you're calling me again? But like dad's really more appreciative of that phone call, and he seems like he lays the smack down more. He's the one that disciplined. So that's the main reason why I definitely wanted to make this podcast, to put more awareness out here for dads and put us on the map again. Because right now, even in our media, like if you look at like the cartoons, TV shows, dads are always that like sit on the couch, crack a joke. Like he's never really serious. He's never really grinding. He's never really in the trenches. I think a lot of dads like have lost their masculinity when it comes to just being a outright like father figure to kids. Dads are getting pushed out the home way more often than anything when it comes to the family court system. I mean, I'm an example of that. So I just want to put the awareness back on the map about dads, and then I think this podcast and linking up with you is the perfect avenue and the perfect vehicle to get our names out again and start just being the men that we could truly be and being the fathers that we could truly be.
yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, for me, I do like listening to podcasts. Um, and for a while, I was like, man, I would love to be on a podcast. I've done a few interviews with folks to talk about education, and I've done some public speaking just around education, which has been cool. And during COVID, actually, is when I really started casting. I made episodes every week for my students called Connection Friday. And I
Right?
would go through we would just do a weekly wrap up, and I would drop some game, drop some knowledge, and just let kids know how I'm feeling about what's going on, and give them a platform to communicate with one another. And I was like, man, I'm getting pretty good at this. But like you said, like I was just, I didn't want to do it by myself. And then we talked, and then you were like, yeah, I'm casting, which I didn't even know you were interested in doing that, but I'm not surprised. So being able to like connect with my homie who has the same interests as me, like this is a hobby right now. So like
Right.
we'll see where it goes. But everywhere we go, everyone wants to have a conversation with us. Every single time. Like there's no bullshit. I'm not just saying that to say it. I mean, every time Marcus and I are together, we go out to the bar, we talk to strangers all the time. Old, young, women, men, teenagers, shit at games. Like we talk to teenagers and they'll come holler at us, or they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember you. You were a coach at so and so. And then we're just talking to everyone, chopping it up. And that's what I like to do, man. And then just like stepping into parenthood is very meaningful to me personally.
Yes.
All right, as someone who's lost both of their parents at a young age, I had a really, really dope childhood until the age of 10. Like, and then that shit was over with. But there were so many gems, so much things that I learned, so many, things I want to give back to folks, especially people who have experienced that. And they themselves have not really, they may not know how to be that type of parent that they want to be.
Right.
They may not understand or know exactly how they should be handling situations. And I feel blessed to have an idea just because of my training, licensed school psychologist, I have worked with ECE through high school.
Hmm.
I worked with kids forever. That's all I do. That's all I'm good at. I don't have like all these like new modern skills, like these, what do they call, like those high quality skill set that everyone must have.
Hmm.
I know people, specifically children and teenagers, and they're the best. I mean, I get irritated with older folks because, we ways. With a kid, man, you can mold them into something special,
Hmm.
especially when you're able to connect with them. And we got to do the same thing with our own children.
Yes.
And I'm big on like building relationships, healthy relationships with your own children, in
Hmm.
order to be able to have those tough conversations, in order to really know what's going on, to keep up with them, so they're not hiding shit from you. Because I
Hmm.
know I hid a lot of shit. Um, but I also see like other budding relationships of parents around me, and they're able to navigate all this social media and talk to their kid, and their kid tells them stuff, and that's beautiful. Like that's what I'm aiming for, because by the time our kids are old, I can't even imagine what social media is going to look like. I can't imagine what schools are going to look like. I can't imagine what shit they're going to be exposed to when we're not around, in order to protect them from everything. So we got to get them ready outside world, outside of our households, outside of wherever we're comfortable at. And I really think this is cool, because I know other parents are out there thinking the same thing.
Hmm.
How do I support, protect my child in the modern day, in the modern ages? Because it's not, all that shit in the past is outdated. A lot of that shit there is, it doesn't really relate. I mean, it boils down to a lot of the same principles, but it looks different, man. It'll throw you for, it will throw you for a loop, dude. Like little kids on social media, like 9 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, put them on Snapchat. Think about like everything they can see on that. It
I
like on it, like
I
not even intentional, right? It's just there. It's
it's
just
just there. It's just there. And like as soon as you look up one thing, it's in your algorithm. So
yeah,
like
they
you
just
look at
keep.
one bikini girl, all of a sudden you get flooded with bikini girls, and then that bikini girl turns into a girl twerking, and then all of a sudden you have like a 9 year old watching like an adult out there doing like something strange, Oh man, like dude, I did an episode. My first episode by myself was on social media, and was about like the pitfalls of social media and like how it's the gift and the curse of human culture. And like what it is like, man, like it's cool that I can connect with like people from Baltimore to Florida, San Diego to Washington, all my people all around the country, down over in like Morocco to like people I met at the bar, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's worldwide. You're world connected. But then the curse is the stuff that gets fed in your algorithm. Like you accidentally click on something, you're like, oh man, ooh, this girl looks good, and you like watch it for a second, and then bam, all of a sudden it's like that's in your algorithm now. It's in your feed. They'll pump like 3 at you, and then they'll pump 5 at you, and then 10. So like these kids, like I don't know if, well, for you, man, like 'cause I know like we're about 6-7 years gap, but like for me when I was younger, it was so hard to get like any kind of like you know magazines, videos, all kinds of stuff. Like it wasn't just ready accessible. Internet was like there, but it was like Netscape Navigator and like what was the other one? It was like old school dial up almost. So you couldn't get any of that. You didn't have the options that you have right now. Now you just pull up a website, and these kids are just looking up like crazy stuff like Lana Rhodes, and they're talking about that as like a handle on Call of Duty.
Yeah,
So it's insane the stuff that they are subject to, and we here, modern fathers are giving you the modern day playbook on how to protect your kids from that kind of stuff. We're going to sit here try to educate you as parents to try to make sure that you are like, okay, this is happening. So how can I talk to my child about these situations and make sure that like that if it is happening, like let's tell them like the whys, the why not to do it, the reasons why not to do it. Because man, like that kind of stuff, it gets toxic, and it can warp your mind. It can sexualize you at a very young age.
straight up, man. I mean, I talk to parents already all the time because of my profession, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I sit there and have these conversations with parents, and right now with middle school. So you're talking 11, 12, 13 year olds. The hardest time, one of the hardest times in your a kid's life. Think about like puberty. You think about peer pressure. You think about finding yourself out, figuring all these things out, and then you add social media on top of that, and that's usually where our conversations end up. Parents asking me about, well, what should I do with social media? How is this
Mm-hmm.
impacting my kid? And I'm gonna be, it fucking sucks for preteen girls. I mean, girls have it really bad on social media, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is a competition.
Yep.
Everything is a competition. Who's the baddest girl? Would you date this girl? Who's prettier than this or this girl? This girl's a hoe. This girl is this. This girl's a thought. She did this. She did that. Like, oh, this girl wants to throw hands with this girl. And it's terrible, dude. Like, I it is terrible. It's just, it's really sad to see, like, these preteen girls or young teenage girls just ripping each other down
Mm-hmm.
and like just being a victim to clout, right? Everything is for clout. Everything needs to be seen. Everything needs to be out and about. But like, I am not seeing the same type of animosity with as I do with girls.
Yeah.
The girls hold on to it. They run with the drama. They run with the rumors. And it's just terrible, man. Like, they're wasting so much time because there are, like you said, it's like a double-edged sword. There's so much cool things they can be doing on social media, but it's just so easy to fall into the negative because that's what gets all the views. That's what gets the likes. That's what
Right.
gets your clout up. You put some video of you fighting some girl, and or like now you're the prettiest, and woo, all this garbage that doesn't mean anything once you're an adult, but they don't see that,
Yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
thinking in the moment. They're thinking about how am I going to be perceived by my peers at school? I gotta show I'm the baddest. I gotta be this. I gotta be that. And it can get very, very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very overwhelming. Working in a school, if you're not ahead of social media or at least what they're using it for and who's on what, and you would be walking into drama every day.
Every day.
You got to know. I mean, I've found fight pages and baddest bitch pages and like little ass girls talking about they're the baddest bitch and they're like 11 and shit.
Right.
Like, this is crazy. Like, dude. And it's every day. It's every single day. It's just flooding their brains with garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But that is their life, dude. And I all the time, just adults in general. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But you have to understand, as an adult, it's not a big deal to you. As that 11-year-old, that's their whole world.
Everything.
It's everything.
Everything.
It's everything. Because you got to remember how you were back at that age, too.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was everything to you. Right? Think about, this is like when people used to vote for, like, when you graduated 8th grade, most popular, most so and so. People took that shit serious. This
Yes.
is like 50 times more intrusive on your life. That was a one time moment. This is
Right.
every single day you're being compared to something.
Every
And
day.
then you're seeing on Instagram and all this other shit, you're seeing all these celebrities, like Instagram celebrities, Instagram models, um, people posting all the time about like all these beautiful things in their life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a backstory to all that. Not everyone.
Yes.
It doesn't. It's not that pretty. For some folks, they definitely got it like that. 100%, they got it like that, and they work their ass off to get everything they have. But other people are just, giving you glimpses of what they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And having that conversation with kids can be difficult because they don't. It's not concrete. They don't see. They're not seeing the backstory.
Exactly.
They see all this guy with money and shit. He's flashing money, but you don't have money. He may have $10,000 cash, but that's all he got.
Yep.
He might have that band. That might be the same band he saw in 3 pictures ago, but you don't know that. You think it's a new 10 bands.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's an actual car, but it's a rental.
Right.
Or like you just ask, or like they ask somebody in the street to let them take a picture with their whip, and they're flaunting.
Right.
Like it is a evolving thing and something we're always keeping up with. And then like that ties into their mental health,
Oh.
right? And how they perceive themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I forget how the quote goes, but like it's like something like if you want to diminish your happiness, like comparison will diminish your happiness. I know there's a specific quote, but basically like think about that. It's like all the time these kids are comparing themselves
Right.
to who they see on and because you can't compete with what you don't know you're going against.
Exactly.
And there's just and it's an everyday thing. And then you look at our suicide rates for teenagers. You look at like self injury for teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Look at like the crime, bro. Like crime is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like looking at like teenagers committing crime, not just crime in general. I'm talking the amount of teenagers I see who are committing crimes that they've practiced playing
Right.
Grand Theft Auto online.
Yep.
Bro, they practice that shit. They practice stick ups. There's a reason why they all get in the same cars.
Mm-hmm.
They all steal the same cars. They all doing this crazy shit. And it's not a video game. This is real life, bro. And these kids are like literally practicing on Grand Theft Auto,
Sad.
trying this shit out in real life.
Right.
Crazy, bro. I've had kids tell me that. I'm not making this up, man. Maybe this ain't everybody, but all I need is one kid to tell me that they use Grand Theft Auto to practice robbing motherfuckers, and then they go and do the same tactics to go rob somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, bro. I'm talking 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds.
Just making irrational life decisions for like attention and clout. I heard.
But you also got to remember, real quick, you got to remember that frontal lobe is not developed yet.
Nah, it's true.
So,
It's
they're
true.
not.
It's true.
They don't comprehend, just like we didn't. We didn't comprehend consequences
Mm-hmm.
when we were 14 years old, 13 years old. But the risks weren't the same.
Right.
Like you're about to allude to. Like the risks I feel like are way higher because they're exposed to shit and they're seeing all this craziness where, like I said in the last episode, like 12, 13-year-olds are doing shit that I did when I was 17.
Yep.
16, 17. They're doing this shit at 11, 12 years old. And it's becoming more of a norm rather than an outlier.
Right.
Right? There's always an outlier. I mean, I had homies, I know a kid when we were back in the day, we were 11 years old, and he had a pistol. He was
Right.
the only one, though. I mean, it wasn't normal. He was literally the only kid in probably the whole neighborhood that around with a pistol.
Right.
But he was the only one. Now I can go and I just can see 5, 6 little shorties walking around with pistols.
Right.
Or taking pictures with pistols. Like, bro, that is nuts.
And it's just a one up of each other. I forgot I was listening to, but they said this correct, and I was like, man, this is crazy. That attention is a new currency, and nowadays that social media has created a new kind of currency and a new kind of credit score. So, like, if you have a certain amount of followers, say for instance, like you're in high school, you got 150 followers, right? It's way more than I have. I have like 30, 40. Then your social credit score looks good,
Yep.
compared to somebody else. Now, when you start going into, like, you were talking about the young ladies, and how like the fights happen, like they don't talk to each other in person. This is more of a, hey, she said something on a snap and it got through everybody, and like it got to me, and like now we got beef and all that stuff. The whole crazy thing about that is about young ladies compared to men. Unless you're an athlete, a male athlete who's like pretty prominent, who's like on like NFHS, he's got highlights and stuff. He's on the news because he's over there making catches and stuff. If you're not like a top tier male athlete, your social media credit score is not going to be as good as a female's credit score. When a female's credit score, all she has to do is like look pretty, and then like filter up, because like that's what they use a bunch of filters and stuff like that, and popularity amongst her peers, but then also like the beauty standards. Now she's like, got 1,000 to 2,000 followers and subscribers, and then now people are checking for her now. Now she's not local. She's out in New York. People are looking at her. Out in Florida, people are looking at her. So that's why I have my boy who's in his early 20s, and he just graduated from Utah. And I was telling him, I was like, look, man, like your life is not determined about you're not going to get girls right now because your girls at your level right now. I told him that. I was super blunt with him, and I was like, look, you're in your early 20s. You're competing with guys like me. You're competing with guys in their 30s, their 40s, guys like you who have jobs, standards, who can go on somebody's online, go on an app, DM, hey, I'll fly you out right now. Like, can you compete with that right now? No, definitely you can't. So that's why women, like young women, especially like in their 20s, like if they're in social media, they are getting likes from everywhere. If they post like something skimpy, they're getting likes from everywhere. So that's why I tell my boys, like, just dude, focus on yourself right now. Do your thing. Come out here and work your ass off. You go get your master's if you need to, but focus on yourself. And then in your 30s, that's when you'll start reaping the benefits of that. Because nowadays, it's so much different than like when we grew up. It's no more face-to-face contact. It's all about your social.
I'll say when you grew up, because I would consider myself as a part of that original wave of social media users.
Right.
For sure, because I was in middle school when I was on like Mi Gente and MySpace. We had a Mi Gente first. I'm not sure if you remember that or.
I don't remember Mi Gente. I remember that MySpace. So I was on that.
So remember there was Black Planet.
I remember that.
Right. So there was Black Planet. Zanga, you remember that?
I remember Zanga. Yeah, I remember Zanga.
Right. So I had a Mi Gente first, and I mean that's really where it started, dude. Like. As a shorty, man, I remember we were messaging females all day. Like, I was finding all the girls from all the different schools that were on the north side of Chicago, right where I was. And it would, like, we built our own community of little shorties. But I just don't remember it being negative as it is now.
Yeah.
Like, it was truly, like, and maybe because we just didn't know, right? And we just were, like, kind of going a flow with it. But dude, I remember being on Mi Gente when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old, maybe 13. And then transitioning to MySpace. And like, you remember they had like the top 10 friends?
Oh, yeah.
And if you didn't have somebody on your top 10 friend or your little girlfriend at the time was your number one, bro, that used to be a right there, like, over some dumb shit. So it's just funny to think about like how that started to where it's at right now. Like I'd be totally lost. My kids be telling me like, "Oh yeah, I'm on a streak with this so and so on Snapchat." I'm like, "What the fuck does that mean, bro?" Like,
right.
I'm like, man, y'all just messaging that much across the table or something? Like y'all just, and it's like a big deal for them. Like you said, it's just like building like credibility. It's just to see where, like I said, but I would consider myself like, I'm 32. As a part of like that original group of middle school kids who hopped on the internet, and we started our own shit. Like it was a little community. Like I said, we went from like Mi Gente to MySpace to Facebook, from Facebook to I don't know, like Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. But like it's beneficial for me to be in schools now.
Yeah.
Because I remember being that. I was on that. I had a good following. I had a massive following on Facebook when I was younger. I had like thousands of friends on there. People I didn't even know. People, you know what I'm saying? Like just a mixture of folks. And then my shit got hacked, and then I just never went back onto Facebook again. But I had, I don't know, maybe like 2,500 followers from the time I was like a teenager. And I had the same account from through until I lost it. I think I lost it at like the age of like 26. It was like right around the time I moved out to Colorado. My shit got hacked and they took everything. Just like my Instagram too. Like my old Instagram, I don't know, maybe like 700-800 followers.
Right.
And now I think I'm up to like 400 on my new shit. But it was just, yeah, it was it took a while to build that up, but like,
Oh yeah,
but I don't know. I just fell into that trap too. There's a bunch. I'm happy my shit got hacked. There's a bunch of shit on there that I would probably get fired for today if somebody pulled all that shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like I was reckless, bro. Like I'm still
right.
reckless, and I'm like I'm a professional. I do my thing, but also, I have my edge to me. I still my thug thizzle still. I be chilling. Um,
Watch what you post. You know,
yeah, watching what
it
I
always
post.
stays on. It always stays on.
Always, you know what I'm
Internet's
saying?
forever. Internet's undefeated.
I mean, I stand by everything I wrote back in the day. It is what it is. I was a kid. I was a teenager. I was reckless. Like I said, I'm still a little reckless. I don't put everything else that I want to put out there. Or sometimes I edit my tweets and be like, maybe I shouldn't say that today.
Right.
Um, but yeah, dude, like it's moral of the story is it has grown. As at our age, I feel like we are a part of that original folks who were on social media. We know how it impacted us. Um, and
Our-
just being able to talk about it more and getting people to really understand how important it is to their kid. And
It's
another,
very important. It's very. Are you a millennial?
yes, I am a millennial.
So you're more of like the like what's the cutoff for millennials right now? Is it like 28 or
I
is it
think it's
like?
something like that, like maybe like 28, 20. I'm a 90s baby. I was right there in 1990.
Mm-hmm. Because
Um,
like the reason why I ask is like, do you think social media has done better for relationships? Like, if people want to marry and settle down and have a family, or do you think it has furthered the gap between like for relationships? Um,
Man, I think that shit made everything worse.
uh huh.
I mean, you just at a click of the have a replacement on deck. You know what I'm saying? Like dating right now is like you can get broken up with one day and then meet another person the next day who's totally different. Like just on internet. I mean, you can do all that shit in like 5 minutes, bro. And then they got all these dating websites and apps and swipes and Tinder, and you don't even gotta talk to nobody.
Right.
You ain't gotta talk to nobody. You just gotta swipe, 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 swipe. Um, which is crazy. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Right.
I'm not that. I'm not the expert at that because I met my wife in person. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like we met through like a dating app or like we met via social media.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you for sure, when I was a teenager, I definitely met girls through MySpace or me, like two or three girls that I knew when I was a shorty that I met specifically because I was on social media.
Right.
Like for sure. So if that was like that back in the day, I mean, right now it's on steroids. I mean, it is far more easier. Um, but like speaking of like like thinking of older people on social media, you know what pisses me off?
What was that? Oh my god, I
This,
love it. This with you.
this is what I'm gonna switch gears real quick. This is irritating me. Is when parents record their kids' tantrums. That shit blows the shit out of me, dude. Like you are making then you get upset when the kid don't want to listen to you, but you're sending mixed signals.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is terrible. I don't understand why parents do that. Like you're embarrassing your kid a little bit.
Yes.
Really small, they may not know what's going on. A lot of these kids are really intelligent though. The ones that they are recording, they're already 3, 4 years old. They're
Mm-hmm.
playing into it, bro. They're playing into that tantrum. They're making this shit even worse. And then you're sitting there recording them instead of addressing the issue so the tantrum can stop. You want to sit there, record, and be like, oh yeah, look at my kid crying over some bullshit. And I'm just going to record instead of just dealing with it and moving on. I'm gonna embarrass my kid, put him on camera, or this kid's gonna see the camera, know what it is because he's had a tablet or she's had a tablet in their hand
Yep.
their whole lives, so they know what videos and shit. They know what that looks like,
Yep.
and they're gonna play into it.
Yep.
I don't understand why they do that. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to put your kid out on Front Street like that, or make
It's
yourself
embarrassing.
look? It's embarrassing,
Yeah,
bro. Like, stupid. Like, why would you? That's not cute.
it's
I don't want
not.
to hear a crying ass kid on Instagram. I don't want to see no Snapchat or not Snap TikTok video of your kid crying, and then you start yelling at them. Like, bro, you're the one in the wrong. That's a kid,
Right.
and you're putting a camera in their face when there could be something really wrong, or you set them up to get upset, and and then now you're going to record them for likes.
Right. It's not. It's for me. It's not like taking over the situation. Like you're supposed to be the parent, so you're supposed to be coaching your son or daughter through that time and trying to address the situation. And just say, hey, like let me figure out what's wrong. So then now next time when this happens again, you're going to be better off. You know, you're going to be more prepared for this situation because we know what's happening. So now let's build some coping skills so then that you can be better off when it happens next time. Parents who do that are normally also the ones that put their like relationship drama also in social media. They live their lives vicariously through that. For me, it's disgusting. It's dehumanizing your child to a point. It's like, oh, look at this, like little dog, running around here throwing this, little tantrum right now. And to me, that kid is going to see that eventually. He's going to grow up. He's going to see that. He's going to be looking at his mom's feet or dad or whoever did that. And he's going to see that and be like, this is what my parents think of me? Like, you know what I mean? And they might not know how to verbalize it. They might not know how to say it, but they feel it. They know, they think it. To me, it is the worst form of parenting, I think, ever. And I think a lot of people need to just keep social media to like, hey, like post your food, post your vacation trip, post the good stuff. That's not like,
Yeah, I want to.
like you said, like renting a car and stuff. But don't post your family drama. Don't post the stuff that's going on with you and your sister. Don't post what's going on, my kid threw food all over the wall. See this and this is how I'm punishing him. Like I've seen one of them where this kid, like I guess, like said something to his teacher, and then they went home and like cut her hair. She got her hair cut off because what she said to her teacher. And I'm like, you just totally made this kid look so bad to millions, and she got millions of views on this. So now millions of people know like why she got her hair cut. And it's just totally made her look so demeaning, so small. Like you're nothing. Like I'm gonna do this. It's almost like a public flogging.
And the worst,
Like Game of Thrones. Like the shame.
yeah,
shame. Make you
yeah,
walk through the streets. And throw cabbage at you and stuff.
and that shit doesn't work, bro. It just pisses the kid off.
Exactly.
And the sad part is, 90% of the time, you didn't even teach your kid not to say whatever the fuck they said, or they've
Right.
heard you say it. Like that's like I like I swear a lot, and it's something I'm gonna have to work on once my baby's around.
Mm-hmm.
But if I hear my baby say something that I've said in front of her, on me, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go up like, hey man, I'm not gonna go flick her or shave her head or you know what I'm saying? Like I seen people like flick their baby and shit like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like that's a kid, that's a baby.
Right.
Like
Maybe
you
doesn't know
are
better.
baby don't know better. I know better.
Mm-hmm.
I know better. I'm the adult. I know better. I have a full functioning brain. I know better. I need to do better, and especially in front of her because the kids are sponges. But like you're saying, like that little girl who and that's supposed to teach her a lesson.
Right.
Like, what lesson are you teaching right there? Did you teach her? Like, did you talk about it? Like, this is why you shouldn't talk to your teacher that way. This is what you should have said. Or if you really felt offended, this is how you're going to go about it next time. This is what you're going to do. This is how you communicate your needs. Now, I'm going to shave your head to teach you a lesson so I can embarrass you, and then you're never going to do it again. Yeah, they may not never. But what if that kid was being treated and now they just don't know how to advocate for themselves?
Exactly.
And what they said came off terrible because they were a kid, but there was there's a reason behind why they said it. Did you look, did you hear to see what was going on there? Or you just want to you want to show the world that you're doing something about it. And this is old. That's some old school shit. Like, I'm gonna embarrass you, and you're never gonna do it again. And
Right.
punitive. That's punitive. You know, everyone cries about like restorative approaches, restorative practices, and
Mm-hmm.
police brutality. That's brutality, bro.
That is.
You're setting your kid up for failure. That's right there in the house before they even get into the outside world and have to deal with the law or deal with the schools. Like, that's garbage, bro. Like, I'll never do that.
Never.
Well, I would never do think that that's even a smart thing to do.
Right.
Like, I have other kids. Like, I've seen this more with boys, where like they get in trouble and like an uncle or their dad shave their head off. So
Mm-hmm.
now they just bald head.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, all that does really is make my work day harder
Right.
because now I got a boy. So like but this happened more like in my other schools where we had like a hoodie policy,
Right.
right? So it's like you can't wear hoodies. These little dudes are trying to wear their hoodie all day because they're embarrassed about their head.
Exactly.
And you think that that's going to change their behavior?
Right.
Like, you really think that's going to stop them from doing whatever they got in trouble for? No, it's going to add more problems. You know why? Because what happens when you come into school with a fucked up haircut? Everyone and their mama got something to say about it,
Right.
right? And so now you're put in a position like, yo, this motherfucker's. Now I'm going to have to. We're going to fight. Eventually, so you're going to get irritated. You're going to get irritated. You can only take so much. When you're 11, 12 years old and your ego's everything and your clout is everything and you walking around with a terrible haircut that's done intentionally and everyone knows it and everyone's trying to yank your hair off, yank your hoodie off to see your bald ass head. Or like I seen an uncle not even do it bald clean. He just did spots everywhere. I'm like, bro,
Man. Leopard him,
like,
dude. You leopard him. Fuck
I don't
up.
think people really real. I like, bro. That can be considered like psychological abuse.
It's not considered. That is
Like
psychological abuse
it
nowadays.
really can be.
Yeah,
Like
it is because you're right because there's a domino effect too because now students are on him, teachers are on him,
everyone's on.
everybody's on him, and all eyes are on him, and it's like he didn't really learn. Now he's learning like he's more worried about his head than what happened to begin
And,
with.
and the bigger
You know?
thing is, folks need to realize is like you send your kid like that to a school, and they go to a school where they don't understand cultural differences.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance somebody's gonna make a mandated reported call on you
Yep.
and say that you're psychologically abusing this kid. And it may seem stupid to you, and folks who are listening to this right now might like, oh, that seems excessive. Like I said, culturally responsive. They don't like. I get it. I know why you did that shit because you were just trying to prove a point to this kid that I'm in charge and I'm gonna do this. And then back in my day, you know what I'm saying. Like I said, I get it,
Right.
but not everyone gets that.
Nope.
And you sit there and they talk to somebody because somebody gonna check in on this kid because they're trying to keep his hoodie off. And then what is he gonna say? Oh yeah, I got this terrible haircut because I got in trouble and my dad they were yelling at me and they made me shave my head to show me a lesson and embarrass me and blah blah blah. People are gonna be like, yo, that's not normal parenting. I think we need to make a mandated reported call.
Yep.
Simple.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
now you got
Yesterday's.
and now you got the police in your shit or like you got
Yeah.
a DHS, even if it's nothing, even if they come as nothing, the fact that now they have a number on you, the fact that they've been to your house in that
Right.
system, and if something does happen next time, they're gonna have this file, this review, like, oh, we've already been here.
Social
We've
workers will
already,
pull up, let them social
yeah,
workers
and like
knocking at your door with that pantsuit, come knocking on your
nobody
door,
wants
be like,
that.
hey, like and then you got the armed police with them too. It's like, hey, we're just doing a checkup, just seeing what's
Yeah,
up, welfare
and
check.
we don't
Yeah,
want that
and
shit.
that's
Yeah.
real because you ain't lying because they put you in now the system. So now if you do anything wrong, they smell a hint of anything, you're
Come back for you.
they're coming to get you. They're coming
They're
knocking
coming
on your
back.
door.
They're coming to check on you, and folks don't like that, especially people of color. Like we don't want no
Uh-huh.
social workers, no city social workers showing up. Most of them don't understand the neighborhoods or shit they're going to. Some do, a lot don't. Um, But like you're just setting yourself up for those type of interactions with people you probably don't even want to deal with for
I'm
something
glad.
stupid.
I'm so glad you went into that about the color difference, because like we're gonna have parents on here that are more melanated. Shout out to my melanated parents. You know, and your parenting that you got from yesteryears needs an update. Like like this, the old systems, they don't apply to these new kids. This is a totally new age. And I was talking to my dad about this because my dad, grew up in the '60s, and to the part where like Baltimore, where it's like the train tracks. You can't cross the train tracks because it was like segregated between like white and blacks. And even he was saying that like, hey, like this the old parenting is done. It's just it's over. It's these new breed, these new kids, the new technology, the all the stuff that they see in life. We have to adapt, and that's what Modern Fathers is for. I think that's why like we are doing this right now to make sure that we get that software update. That we continue to get better and better and better. Show accountability, like because we're not perfect. We're gonna make mistakes, so owning that mistakes and letting our children see that, like, okay, our dads aren't perfect, but they're striving for us to be better. I think that's what modern fathers is all about. Is just
Correct.
trying to be better every single day and try to make those steps to make sure that we parent our kids to be successful as possible in these modern times. These modern times are way different than when I was growing up in the '80s, '90s. Way different than you were growing up in the '90s. Way different than our uncles and our grandparents. Our dads.
Yeah. I would say like the principles are probably the same, right? When you really break it down, you take
Mm-hmm.
everything off, it's gonna boil down to the same principles, right? Like you want your kid to be independent, you want your kid to be successful in whatever successful you, however you define success, right? You want them to be, well liked, a global citizen,
Mm-hmm.
educated. You want all of that, but it's the way to get there is different now,
Right.
right? And it's like, back in the day, especially for boys, it was harsh, right? Like can't cry, right? Like my parents, like their thing was like, you cry, I'll give you a reason to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a line. That's a common line. I mean, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there are thousands, millions of people. You want to cry, I'll give you a reason to cry, right? Like that shit is garbage. Like that doesn't work. That's outdated. Again, overdoing it with like the physical, right?
Yes.
Hitting, you know what I'm saying? Like that's again unnecessary. Unnecessary. I'm sure there are times where a kid does need to get whacked.
Right.
I ain't gonna lie, especially when they
Right.
get older. Like if they get older and they trying to get jazzy with you and they think they're grown, there might be a reason why you need to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
like a little kid,
Yeah.
nah, man. Most of the time, when I see people like hit their kid and shit, they're expecting them to do things that they have never taught them.
Yeah.
Like, bro, like I'll be in the store and like this kid was just like he knocked some shit over, and his mom was just going. First of all, you weren't even watching the motherfucker for one.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't even watching him. He's like 3 years old. I'm watching the whole. You're not even paying attention. You don't give him nothing to do. We're in Walmart. There's shit all over. This kid's excited. There's fucking Christmas shit everywhere. There's toys and all this shit. And you sitting there yelling at this shorty like he's 15 years old and he knocked some shit over. This kid's 3 years
Mm-hmm.
old, bro. Come on, man. He ain't break nothing. Nobody's hurt.
Right.
No, nobody's saying nothing, and you just yelling at him like that's your first go to, just to sit there and yell at him, berate him, or being a kid for
Mm-hmm.
exploring,
It's
for
like
exploring.
it's like you embarrassed me in this position right now, so I'm gonna embarrass you.
To
Instead of
show
figuring
people,
out like what happened and then being like, it's just this. You know what I mean? We'll pick this up,
yeah,
and just brushing that aside and focusing and choosing your battles for more of the bigger things. So when those bigger things come up, you don't have the same reaction for smaller things. Um, what is your feeling on you got to emotions? What is your feeling on young emotions when it comes to like males? So like like you said, like
Embrace
back
them.
in the day, like you couldn't
Embrace them. You gotta embrace your
you
emotions.
couldn't show it. You know, you like I
Nah.
remember like man, like I wasn't that emotional, you know, growing up. I was even telling my dad when I switched schools when I was in high school. I switched from this Catholic high school to a public high school, and like I didn't know how to talk to him and get my feelings out about the situation, but I wanted to switch so bad because you know I was dealing with like forms of racism. You know, there's only 9 black kids in the school, so there's different forms of racism, classism, all this stuff like that. But I didn't know how to communicate that to him or my
Yeah.
parents, my mom. I didn't know how to communicate that. So instead of doing that, I lashed out in different ways. You know, grades slipped. You know, mouthing off. You know, I was bitter because I didn't know how to talk to them and display my emotions. Um, do you think, like nowadays with a modern day kid, that we should be putting more emphasis on emotions?
Absolutely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they and like absolutely, and I would they need to learn, and I say boys and girls,
Mm-hmm.
because I would say girls I work with now they're tough. They here you might see some crying. That's anger though.
Yeah.
That's just frustration. That's like they're at that tipping point. Boys and girls, I mean, they need to understand and not be afraid of their emotions. It's okay to cry. I tell boys that all the time. It's one of my favorite things to tell a little teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right to cry, bro. You can cry. Let it out. Let it out, and you'll see everyone. I'll see a tear, and that I'll see one, and every once in a while I get a kid that shows me the waterworks, and they let it all come out, and I'm like, bro, don't you just feel better?
Right.
Like, and it's kind of crazy. I've had kids tell me like, "Oh, you're the first person to tell me it's okay to cry."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and these are kids from anywhere from 12 to I would say 19 years old,
Yeah.
right? And they're just like, "Yo, Mister, you're the first one to like tell me it's okay to cry or sit here and listen to like why, um, and just let them be vulnerable." And in order to do that, we have to show that,
Yes.
right? I let my kids know, like, well, if I gotta cry, I'm gonna let it out. I'm gonna cry. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I need to cry, it's gonna come out. I
You
don't
see me
cry.
cry.
Yeah, hell yeah. This dude was crying for because we lost a championship, and he over there giving a speech, and he started crying in front of the kids and shit. Then the kids start crying. They didn't know what the fuck to do. They all just like, damn, we fucked up. We didn't win the championship. We should have won it. Now this dude crying, and I'm just looking at him, and my other coach is just like, yo, this dude really crying right now. And I was like, yo, let him do his thug thizzle. He's out here. He's showing emotions. He's being vulnerable, and I mean, a handful of them boys started crying, and they didn't even. I don't even think they knew why. They
Right.
just felt the authenticity and the
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, so it made them feel vulnerable and feel okay. Because I know hurting. Internally, they were pissed. They wanted to win,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was nice for them to be able to cry and just show like I'm sad
Right.
instead of being all like, oh, no, you're not mad, bro. Like, you're not mad about this. You're sad, dude. Those
Mm-hmm.
are two different feelings. Sad and mad are not the same. And it's okay to be sad. But yeah, shout out to you for crying in front of all these boys. I
Yeah,
feel.
man. It's more like too like you when you put in like 'cause we were putting in hard work, man, and like those guys like the way like we started and the where they finished, like the growth, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
and just to watch the growth and all the hard work, and then watch them like not reach the goals that we wanted to do, and we were just like that close to doing it. Like I felt their pain, you know, like and I know they all wanted to do it. I know they did. So then I just started welling up and I started talking, and that's you know that's where my heart on my sleeve, you know, is I'm not afraid to show like those kind of emotions. I'm not gonna cry over some like bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I dropped like, you know, a pencil like down the drain or something like that, and I'm gonna cry over some bullshit. But like, I am gonna cry when I see like young men who like worked their asses off for like weeks, grinded for us, did everything that we told them to do, and then they didn't reach their goal, and that's what like made me like the saddest part. I don't know if you saw a video. There's a video of this like karate instructor, and like he's working with young like black kids, and this black kid can't punch through like this wooden block, and this kid starts crying, and he's like, the karate instructor's like, what are you crying for? And then he's like, I don't know. He didn't know how to, give out his emotions. And he's like, are you angry? And does it make you mad? You know? And so like
Yeah.
the kid was like, yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's like, hey, like here's what I want you to do. Like I want you to put like all that anger and all that frustration. I want you to just try to hit this. And it's okay to cry. I want you to start crying right now. Start crying. So this kid's bawling and he's trying to hit this thing and then finally he does it. But like this instructor was doing his best to try to make sure that these kids show their emotions because a lot of these kids came from like that background, like they always had to go through the struggle, like either single mom is working her ass off, trying to put food on the table for the kid, and like they have no father figure in the life. The karate instructor is a father figure, so he's trying to tell them it's like, man, it's okay to let this emotion out. I'll send it to you. I'll look it up and send it to you. It's amazing, but emotions are so crucial, especially with young girls. Man, you're gonna figure that out too. That's
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
that's gonna be something that you're gonna have to navigate, and I think you're gonna navigate very well now that you're thinking
Yeah.
something like that. That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. I've had a little, like I said, I've had some practice. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Obviously, with other in a profession or just working with other people's kids. Girls, can be tough. Girls can be tough, but they're also more. They engage more in that type of conversation.
Hmm.
Um, boys can be hard. I remember one time I was like back. This was back when I was in Chicago. Did a social emotional group, and I was like, yo, I want to talk to just only boys without fathers. So all we're talking to fathers. Um, so I found my kids. I had like 10 kids who volunteered to like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna do it with you. They're all high school, and that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had of running my own social emotional learning group that I
Hmm.
created. I wrote the curriculum. I framed it all out. I didn't bite anybody's shit. I didn't use any pre-made. I just did it off the top of my head. Experiences of not having my father around and just kind of generalized it for it to make sense to everyone else.
Hmm.
And it was beautiful. And the crazy thing was, people were tripping out because I had a white kid in there. Everyone expected it just to be all black and brown boys, and I had a white boy in there,
Hmm.
and it was like the biggest deal because of, supposedly, I guess it's taboo in like the white community to like acknowledge the fact that your father's not around.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like in our community, right, black and brown community, it's kind of like the norm, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, so that was just a dope moment. Like that was, man, I could like remember a time where we're just all sitting there, and I got these tough ass boys looking at me, all with tears in their eyes, and they're just listening and they're sharing with each other, and they started bonding. Like some of them knew each other already, but no one
Hmm.
knew this white kid. No one knew this white kid at all. And by the end, they were all like, it was beautiful, man. They were all homies. They were all talking, and they were just like, yo, it was cool to actually talk to other people who experience this, like who doesn't have that. And I would tell everyone who's listening right now, the number one issue I see in my years of experience as an educator and working with youth, the negative impacts of children who do not have a consistent father in
Yes.
their life.
Yes.
More than
Agreed.
anything else, dude, more
Agreed.
than anything else, that is the number one thing. And girls
Hmm.
and boys who are fatherless are the ones who have the hardest time just growing up.
Agreed.
It
I
is it
I agree.
is terrible. It bad, like significantly different, dude.
Hmm.
And whether they're not there because they're just totally gone, whether they, unfortunately maybe passed away and they're no longer there. I would say even worse when they are alive and they choose not to be there.
Hmm.
Like that's a tough pill to swallow, man. And these kids, like I said, man, most kids I've ever interacted with, regardless of where we're at, and this goes rural, inner city, suburban, anywhere. It doesn't matter. dude, they have a hard time through their adolescence.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. And I'm saying like it's very common.
It's
That's usually one of my first questions, man. When I see kids who are always in trouble or always
mm-hmm.
doing something, they're always on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, where's your father at?
Yep.
It's always jail. He's dead. He don't
Yeah.
want to be here. I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know who he is. Um, like it is. It's kind of it's sad, and
Yeah.
it's just, and that just kind of like again just feeds into why this is so important because we are huge influencers in our children's lives, man, and we
Mm-hmm.
can our presence alone can. I mean, you see dads all the time, right? They do the bare minimum, they get the most love,
Yeah.
right? Mom's busting her ass, and dad's just there doing the standard shit and a little bit, and they always want to run a dad.
Yeah.
So imagine if you like just kind of stepped your game up a little bit more,
Yeah.
how much more, how much more your kid gets out of that
Yeah.
interaction on a regular basis. Like, I don't think folks really realize how important.
I
I don't think fathers realize how important they are.
they it's extremely important, man. Like I think it's like imagine having the yin without the yang. You know, imagine having 50% of your
Ham, no burger.
oh yeah. No, you're basically having like just like a Thanksgiving turkey with no sides. You know, and sometimes the sides are the best. You know, so like it's just to me like because man, what you brought up too is like having sons and like one son is having the world, two-parent household, the other one's not. Like I just wonder, like man, like dude, who knows how like he's turning out right now without a dad. So like stuff like that, man. Like you think of, and it's just like fuck, man. Like that's why every single day when I'm with Cairo, like every single day, it's just balls to the wall. Like it is like hardcore. Like I'm gonna be the best parent I could be. Like I'm like like this is a gift. You know, this second chance is a gift. I'm gonna take it. A lot of parents don't realize like what they have. Like they take a lot of that stuff for granted. For me, I'm just embracing every single moment of it because man, like when I was in your position, doing that stuff too, when I had that males group, I had 16 different teenage males in there, all Hispanic. 90% of them didn't have dads in their life. 90%. So I'm asking myself, like, why is that? Like, why is that with melanated folk like us, Hispanic, black? Why is that our fathers are mostly not around? You know what I mean? I think a lot of times could be like family court. A lot of our kids are born in a wedlock. Like, just think about it this way: like your daughter, you guys are married. You know what I mean? With you and your daughter. Like me and Julie have been together for like 7 years. We're basically common law. Like we're married without the paper, right? If you don't have that bond, then it is so easy to separate. And then the family court system chooses like, oh yeah, you're on child support now. Okay? So then now dad has to go work 2 jobs to support not being homeless. So I think a lot of it has to do with like governmental stuff, like the way family court is set up, and how they're willing to split these families, even through divorces, how they split these families and they give mom more of the like 70-80%. And then also I think too a lot of times it comes to dads are undervalued and appreciated, and they're not given a lot of the chance to actually parent a lot of these kids. But then you have a lot of those dads who just don't want to be there.
Just
And
a
then
bunch of big ass kids, bro. Just that there's a lot of that too, man. I was like, depending on I see a lot of that shit. It's just a bunch of big goofy motherfuckers with kids who just don't care.
right,
Still selfish.
right,
Still thinking about themselves first. And just actively choose not to be there. right? Like I'd rather
Right.
go out to the club than do something with my kid. Or they're there, they're just inconsistent.
Right.
Or they're just like them and the baby mamas are just toxic and it just doesn't work out and they're both toxic or it's a whole slew of things, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
I just know I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
like I
No,
told you
don't. Don't.
like
Don't.
I hit on the other day, like I can learn from non-examples.
Right.
You know
Don't.
what I mean? I know what I have seen enough positivity from folks. I've seen some great fathers in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I've seen some great fathers where I'm just like, damn, like I want to be like you when I'm a dad. Like
Mm-hmm.
you, I want to do some of that. I want to take some of the shit that I see you do. I want to take that. And then I look at other mugs. I'm definitely never going to be like you.
Right.
And like, or I thought somebody was like cool as hell. I was like, oh, this dude cool as hell. Especially when I was younger. Like, oh, this dude fly. He got all this shit. And then I find out you don't take care of your kids.
Right.
But you out here, like you out here hanging out. You trying to go to the club. You trying to go to the bars. You trying to go to the club. You trying to chase girls. But your shorties are at home, not doing shit. Ain't been nowhere. And like that is, I can't do that, bro. Like that is just an example. I don't want to do that. I have no interest in ever doing that shit. Like you said, I just want to be the best father I can. So when I'm older, my daughter sticks around to help me out when I need some help.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I
And
need,
we're gonna need it, man. We're gonna have
yeah,
that ass
eventually,
bag. Got that ass bag carrying that shit around. Like,
yeah. I
hey,
don't
help
want.
me
I'm not
out.
trying to end up in like my grandmother said. I ain't trying to end up in no nursing home.
Right.
But
Right.
if I give you a reason, I'll make want to do it. You're like, you know what, Dad, you suck, bro. Just
Right.
figure it
Uh,
out.
that's why I want to take care of my pops, man. Like I love that dude, and I just want to make sure I will be there for him. But yeah, man, just take it from me, dude. Take it from me, who like was one of those dads who wanted to be there, but like had some toxicity in his life, dude. Parents out there, listen. All you dads out there that do have an opportunity to be in your kid's life, go out there and do it, right? If you're dealing with some baby mama issues and baby mama drama, try your best to work it out. Try your do things. Make your money so you can go to the court system and you can fight that shit. Trust me. Like, it's going to cost you at least 10, 15 grand, but if you have that 10, 15 grand, use it or lose it, because that's what's going to happen. Always try to be around your kids as much as possible. Don't end up being like that. Don't put yourself in my position to where like, hey, like you have no contact, basically, with your kid. That's my word and tip of the day. There's a lot of things that like I sit there and I regret about, like a long time ago. Definitely, like there's some decisions I could have made that are better, but I was young and I had nobody to cancel this. So if you need some help with these issues, email us, contact us, and I'll try to walk you through things that learning from the systems and the family court systems and everything. That I'll walk you through that I wish I knew when I was like a young guy. Going through that process, because I would still be with my kids to this day if I knew the stuff that I knew now. I would never had any problems going through that process, but I got railroaded. I was in trouble, and there's a lot of mistakes that I made. I'll show all the accountability. There's definitely a lot of mistakes that I made and a lot of stuff that I could have done better. But in the end, though, like, you want that relationship. I would love to see my oldest son. I'd love to be there for him. But, when he's 18, everything's going to be set up for him, and I hated to do that. I'm a paycheck dad. Don't be a paycheck parent if you have the option not to be. Go out there and try to be the best father that you can. Learn from my mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. Email me, call me, shout me out. I will walk you through this process.
Yeah, that's some real shit right there for you putting yourself out there on blast. I know we talked about that. I was like, you should do that right away. And you're like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a part of who I am. It's something I deal with as a father now. And I would assume that it's probably more on your mind now with Cairo around. And you're seeing like, fuck, I could have, I wish I had the opportunity to do that with my other shorty.
Every day I look at Cairo, I think about Brian. I think about him every single time that I'm like around him, because like I was like, man, I could have had those same moments with him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then I think about like him, like you said, man, like not having a father like in his life, like I think about like, dude, like all the stuff that like he's probably missed out on sports. He's probably missed out on oh the masculine stuff that you're not gonna get from mom. Like mom can do everything in the world for him, but he's not gonna be able to like hey, like this is how you like talk to women. This is how you keep that masculine frame when you're walking down the hallway. This is how you're gonna play sports, and we can go outside and like throw the ball around. Like we can go to baseball games, football games. We can go to events. We can do things. Go to the movies and watch Batman. Watch like read comics together. Those kind of stuff that's what dads bring, and that's what I'm gonna bring to my son. But like that's the things that are unfortunate that I can't bring to him. So then I'm hoping that when he turns 18 and then like legally like there's more stuff that I can be involved in personally. I'm hoping that he can accept my apology and take like those like little like letters that I write like all the time just to say, hey man, like this is what's happening with my life. This is what happened. I hope he believes my story. I hope I'm as a father not tarnished in his eyes. But like I know it's gonna take a lot of accepting. There's gonna be a lot of emotions involved in it, and it's like, when, like, why weren't you here? And you only heard one side of the story, so like that's I think the hardest part is gonna try to be rebuilding that bridge, and then also too like rebuilding from like where he's gonna be at in his life. Like I don't know if he's gonna accept it, but hey, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to be there for him, and for all the other dads that are going through it, maybe you guys can give me some tips, and help me out through that process. 'Cause I know that's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think on that note, man, I think we are coming to a conclusion
Yeah, man.
with our second episode. That was a very heartfelt, authentic way to end our episode, and I don't think anything can top that. Me personally, I want to thank your friend, for the vulnerability, man. That, like I said, that's some tough shit to talk about publicly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's true and it's real, and we're gonna dive into it more. We have some other heartfelt shit that we're gonna get off our chest. We both been through some craziness in our lives that we are going to share just for the greater good of society and for fathers all around. So on that note, we will say goodbye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Modern Father. This is Benji and Marcus. You will hear from us, you will see us, and we'll holla at you soon. Take care. Peace.
And make sure you wipe that ass.
Wipe that ass.